Easy E, how are we?
Shawnee! You were waiting for me to do something crazy, weren't you?
Yeah, where are you going with this week?
Well, I'm going to switch it up and give a shout out, Sean, to someone who has been a big supporter of the podcast over many years, as always advertising us, and so many people do. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But Monroe, who took on the Lanzarote Marathon, we want to give you a big shout out. He sported one of our t-shirts for us and wore it with pride on the Canary Islands and done a great show, and always a big fan. We would just want to say a big well done and a thank you for always supporting us. And in the interest of support, Sean, we have a few things that caught us off guard, I suppose, this week.
Seeing people tag our podcast in their Spotify wrap and seeing it up in the top 5, and a lot of people having their top 5. So we got when you do a podcast through Spotify, it tells you how many people are in the top 5. It was like over 2,000 people, 2,000 or 4,000 people. We were in their top 5 for top 5 podcasts. It's just bananas. I said top 5 like 20 times in that sentence, but it's bananas just seeing our tag being there and like, yeah, no, people are actually listening, because sometimes it just feels like it's just us two having the chats here.
Yeah, someone actually messaged us and said it's like two lads are gaming online and everyone's in the hallway just listening to us, which I thought was a fantastic way to kind of put how this all feels. But it's when you think about 5,000 people in a room, and if you were to put me and you on stage with a guest, it is absolutely terrifying. But we never cease to be amazed by the support. We're so humbled, so grateful for everyone who listens to us. We're so grateful for all the guests who come on and share their stories, and the amount of people that finish a run or finish a marathon and reach out to us. That we and respectfully, we didn't even know you were there. We never see you, but you reach out and say, "Listen, you were with me for the last 20 weeks, and you got me through some good runs." That gives us the energy to keep going. We're so grateful for the support. It's been phenomenal to be in over 800 people's number one podcast in Ireland. Is an achievement I never thought was even possible for this podcast, but it's growing, it's getting there. And yeah, what an amazing week, what a humbling week. And Sean and I definitely are most grateful for everyone who tunes in and everyone who supports. And let's hope that the new year gets bigger and better, and we can keep bringing you great diverse guests from your local areas. And again, as always, if anyone knows anyone who'd like to come on in the new year, we're more than happy to have them and see this podcast go even further.
I don't even have like 800 relatives to say, hey, start listening to the podcast, get number one out of Simply and stuff like that. The fact that that's genuine and stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's scary. It's cool, it's scary, it's humbling, and but it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully that recognition continues. And it's good to see, you know, when you see any given run day, number 2, Joe Rogan, number 3, something else, Diary of a CEO, you're like, yes. So yeah, that's good. If we brought out more podcasts, we'd probably be a little bit higher in a couple of people's. But yeah, in 3,000s, particularly on Spotify, 3,000 people, top 1, 2 to 5 is pretty amazing.
That's class.
And even though that is humbling, do you know what's even more humbling, Sean?
What's that?
Running.
I know where we were going with that. What's up?
To bring ourselves back down to earth, I had one of those classic moments, and everyone knows it. I was going for a tempo run. I was like, how did I run a marathon 30 seconds quicker than this? Yeah, it's week 3. We're getting there. Look, I'm in a great place. I'm trusting the process, following all the great advice, but getting back in the saddle is frustrating. And I suppose that's what I think people listen for, is to hear how average we are and how great our guests are. But yeah, we're back training.
Absolutely.
It's coming back just slowly.
Well, at least you could run forward in where you're at over in Doha right now. Everyone else over here trying to do marathon training or any sort of outdoor running is getting blown backwards and getting minus sleep, especially if you're like me, the idiot who put his Christmas lights around the house, didn't know a storm was coming, waking up during the night to things ripping off the roof and then repeatedly bouncing off the roof at the same time. I've had minus sleep. You can hear my voice right now. I'm hotspotting my phone because it's a Sunday afternoon and my electricity's gone over the storm. Most people electricity was gone Saturday, but for some reason got a day delayed over here as well. Like you being slow, my outcomes are coming slow right now. So it's an absolute mess for me.
It's a good thing we don't have a guest because you're slowly fading into the darkness. I'm beginning to just see just eyeballs looking back at me on the other side of the screen. But yeah, it's week 3. Obviously, those who did miss any training sessions or those who have any Christmas plans or those who are out partying, as long as you're enjoying yourself, staying safe. If you've missed a couple of sessions, for those who are training along with us and doing the marathon, don't worry about it. These things happen. We have to be flexible. That's why our training plans is kind of scheduled yourself and don't be trying to squeeze in sessions. Stuff like this always happens. And this is where treadmills and sometimes can be the benefit to get indoors and maintain the training sessions. But yeah, it is good. It's getting close. It doesn't feel like it's getting close to Christmas out here. It's 25 degrees today. So, but it got cold. It was funny. Temperature dropped to like 21 degrees and I was freezing. I swear to God. I didn't bring a jumper. I had to go and buy a jumper because I was freezing. I was like, I'd be shot at home. 21 degrees and I'm rattling like a leaf. I was like, ooh, I could do with a sun holiday.
You can't see the darkness on my screen right now, but I'm playing the world's smallest violin for you. For you, 21 degrees and not 140 kilometer winds.
But it's so funny. You should see the local Qataris, like they're coming in with woolly hats. But that's and gloves on, and it's 21 degrees, and they're like, so cold, Captain Eric, so cold. I'm looking at them like, oh man. But yeah, it is funny the perspective of what winter is, and I suppose having become acclimatized to it, it's right now though, as in terms of running, it's amazing. It's so good. You want to be out in it. It's just the perfect weather. It is, yeah. We're getting stronger winds. That's the only downfall to it. But the temperature, it's absolutely amazing. So I know everyone's listening and they all hate me a little bit right now. But
absolutely,
you're more than welcome to come for a visit anytime.
I'm going nowhere near playing with these winds right now. Second turbos, I'll be sick all over the place. But I suppose there's one thing, and at least this week's episode of the podcast, one thing we can do indoors if we're not getting a chance to run outdoors, because I can't use my treadmill, no electricity. I could probably brave the runs right now. I tried to run yesterday, actually. I was doing another kind of mini high rocks thing where it was like 1K run. And like the weather had picked up Saturday afternoon. It looked all right. And then as I was running like halfway through, I was like, this is not bad. And then I hit the open field coming back and just the wind hit me head on. I was like, oh God, this is horrific. 7-minute kilometer runs after being on a sled was not good. But something I need to work on is mobility. And a lot of this week's episode of the podcast is on just that.
Yeah. And look, but bad weather can be that opportunity to force you to do something, and mobility, strength and conditioning is something that all runners always forget about. We're constantly just happy to go for the run, not stretch, not work on mobility, and then wonder why we start getting the niggles as we get into the training. And I suppose that strength and that mobility is what keeps us in the fight. I suppose it keeps us in the training longer. And yeah, and this episode is a testament to that and the importance of that and why we all should take it that a little bit more serious.
Yep, and if you listen to Aaron's episode a couple of weeks ago, who actually broke sub 3 in the park a couple of weeks ago, fair play Aaron on that one. He talked about in his podcast how he had his ankle was all messed up and he had a choice getting surgery or getting someone to look at it and go through like a mobility and strength rehab kind of program and stuff. And Brian, who we worked with, is this week's guest on the podcast. We do talk a little bit about Aaron, other things, mobility, mindset, and just different aspects of running rather than just, miles and intervals and tempos and stuff like that. And with that said, it's a fun listen. It's this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go. So this week on the Any Given Run Day podcast, we have movement specialist and co-founder of Movement 101, now Telos, a program designed to help you live life by design through their 3 foundation principles: weaponize your body, raise your standards, live with purpose. Ryan O'Loughlin, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. How are you getting on?
Very well, lads. Thanks very much for having me.
Have you ever seen Sean run?
I haven't.
Talk about what in your body. He looks like a weapon coming down the road. You can hear him before he even gets there. You can hear him a kilometre away.
So, but both of you are runners, yeah? Or one of you runners?
We have to
We
say yes
run.
because we have a running podcast.
Yeah.
I know, look, we say to a lot of people that, yeah, we run often. So yes, we are runners. We're not Olympic athletes, but we run.
Fair play.
Are you a runner yourself? Winter training? You need Ultra Pure Laboratories Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream.
Recommended by physios, trusted by athletes, and tried and tested by ourselves, this is an essential warming muscle rub for cold winter days.
Ultra Pure Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream is perfect for warming up muscles before exercise.
And ideal for soothing tired muscles, which, let's face it, marathon training, we could definitely do with that.
If you're concerned about the ingredients, it contains wintergreen oil, rosemary camphor oil, juniper berry oil, and antioxidant-rich caffeine powder. Sean has no idea what any of these means, but he knows that they work.
It keeps me warm too. Apply Ultra Pure Laboratories Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream liberally on problem areas such as the legs, arms, back, neck, and shoulders, and massage as well. Boy, rinse hands well with cool water after use. I have made that mistake. It is not fun.
Guaranteed Irish and made in County Mayo, Ultra Pure Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream is available in pharmacies and health stores nationwide. Shop the Ultra Pure Muscle Recovery range in-store or online and find out more at ultrapurelabs.ie. By listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish podcasts and Irish businesses. Let's get back to the podcast.
Now, I wouldn't have to have it as a runner, although I did just do a run literally an hour before this. So I run about twice, sometimes 3 times a week, and no more than 5K because I don't like running. It's all aerobic work. It's just to help me play ball better, be healthy, be fit. But no, I wouldn't have myself as a runner.
And how did you get yourself into sport? So obviously running, very much our background. A lot of our listeners are into running. What we like to know is, where did it start for you? Where sport? What, obviously football is part of it, and what drives you into sport?
Yeah, I suppose at a young age, my dad kind of got me into sports. So there's 3 main sports I played when I was younger were football, golf and badminton, and all for him. So like football, I was half decent. I wasn't anything great. Golf and badminton, I was pretty good. I was pretty good in terms of badminton and on Ireland level. And then golf, I got pretty low handicap, like about 16, 17. But all of them kind of fell away around 18. But what I always had then was this love of fitness and training. So I would still play football, 5-a-side, etc. Now I stopped playing 11-a-side. I go to the gym. I still run. I still play golf occasionally. But health and fitness, sport, activity, it's essentially a part of my identity since I've been born, really. You know?
And from there, how did you talk about on your Instagram? You know, you had a shoulder injury or something for 3-4 years. So I suppose the golf and the badminton is definitely out the window there of the shoulder. Did you find that your fitness kind of went by the wayside during those 3-4 years, or did you try and push through it, or what happened that led from that into what became Movement 101?
Yeah, so anyone listening to this potentially knows us and myself as Movement 101. We rebranded as Telos, are kind of what we do essentially and have done for the last 2.5 years. But Movement 101 came out about 8 years ago, and my shoulder injury happened about the age of 22, I think, to about 26. Maybe it was 21, 25. But basically for 4 years, I was struggling with shoulder pain. And I was quite lost. I spent thousands of euros as a young man on physios, on different treatments. And like you name it, I tried it. And I definitely got some short-term relief. I could never, ever get rid of it. And I was a trainer at the time. So I was 22. I was still in college, but I'd done a 2-year personal trainer course. So I was in gyms, I was training people, but definitely felt like a fraud. I couldn't physically do what I was teaching clients to do. I couldn't train in certain aspects, etc. And this is how I kind of came about to our way of training, because I did this high-level course called ZUU, Z-U-U. Did you ever hear of it?
Yeah.
Yes, animal movement and stuff like that.
Exactly. It's really high, intense conditioning bodyweight work. It's essentially what it is. Now, it's madness, really. It's brilliant, though. But I did that. I was one of the first people to do it, whatever it was, like, I don't know, I'm at 12, 13, 14 years ago. But I was in pain, and it was a whole weekend of doing this really high, intense course. And for the first time in 4 years, I got through that course relatively pain-free. And I thought one day I could move pain-free. Up to that point, I didn't think I could. And for some reason, it made me buy a pair of gymnastic rings. And I just began to explore. different modalities of training, different ways of getting myself to physically move better, quote unquote. And I got myself moving pain-free. And so basically that kind of changed my philosophy of training. I started to look at training differently. I started to train clients differently. I had fat loss clients, the normal, typical fitness kind of trainer. But I started to help people with injuries and certain things and get my own kind of philosophy. But even looking back then, it's not necessarily a movement. It was that mindset shift. It was that belief that I was like, Jesus, one day I can move pain-free. And I realize now, looking back, what am I now, 37? So 15 years later, say, it was actually the questions I was asking my body. So I was, number one, looking to be fixed. Give me an exercise or give me a stretch or give me a massage going to fix my shoulder. I had terrible lifestyle. So I wasn't sleeping well. I couldn't exercise. I wasn't eating well. My mindset was awful. I was literally depressed. I didn't know it at the time. But looking back, I lost myself as a man. My identity, I couldn't train and do things that I loved. And that weekend, for some reason, gave me the license to start to live my life and ask these questions and kind of lean in. And then that's where Movement 101 came about. So my business partner, Rob, we met each other about 9-10 years ago. I was training on the rings in the gym. So was he. We came together. We just had similar ideas around training. And our aim with Movement 101, 8 years ago, I think, was to help, make movement accessible to the masses. That was our aim. Because movement is quite scary and people are afraid of moving and they can't progress. And we didn't do that, basically. Because 80% of people still don't move and they don't run or exercise enough. But we basically did allow people to think of the idea of mobility. And at the time, 8 years ago, people weren't thinking of mobility. And you can see it's a huge thing now. And I believe we've been a big part of that message, of driving that message. So we help people physically improve how they move. Athletes, normal Joe Soaps, again, do what they physically wanted to do. And then Telos is our holistic extension of that. So looking at mind, lifestyle, body, soul, your identity, everything. But all unearthing that is essentially using movement and strength training as an avenue to transform your life. I hope that made sense.
It did. I've seen those for people who haven't seen zoo kind of training. It's like gorilla walks and stuff. We were on all fours and movement and it's mountain climbers on steroids pretty much for people who know general training. And for someone for shoulder work to go into that, and then gymnastic rings where your shoulder is going in, there's so much movement in the shoulder and that's going every which direction for someone that was in pain for 3-4 years, and then be jumping into those things and they're anything but stable. It's one thing using, a dumbbell or something more controlled to jump on them and all of a sudden you're better. I suppose that's where movement is medicine really comes from.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with that, because looking back, it's actually quite simple. The idea being I couldn't hop in the ring straight away. I didn't literally have the strength. And then you just progress it very, very slowly over time. But rather than doing this, because my whole focus for 4 years was I'm in pain, get rid of the shoulder pain. It was can I start working towards goals? Can I start getting confidence in how I move? Can I start taking more control of my body, my mind, my life? And just think about that from a perspective of where I am and where a lot of people who are injured are. They're going to a physio to be quote unquote fixed. And a lot of times they're not actually broken. They might have pain or they might be injured. But again, the narrative, the question, the education around whatever they're given and what control do they take? How do they live their life? What does this actually mean from a literal story, narrative, meaning perspective and how that influences you? So a fundamental principle at our company now is responsibility. You have to take responsibility for yourself, for your body, for your life. It's like a dentist. You don't walk, I was actually at the dentist yesterday. You don't go into a dentist, never brush your teeth and go, will you clean my teeth and fix me out here? Yeah, a lot of us go to a physio and go, my shoulder is injured. Rub it out or give me whatever. And I'm going to leave here and nothing else matters outside of here. But of course, a good physio will tell you, look, here's a few exercises and I want you to progress these and I want you to focus on your sleep and your stress management and, just be mindful that you're not broken. Again, it's very complex and it goes on, it's deep, like any kind of progression of your health is. But it's education, it's responsibility, it's empowerment. It's not this exercise. It's not I'm fixing you. It's not this thing. And that's why, again, what we do is very complex and vast, but deep down it's quite simple. Just take that ownership, work towards goals that empower you and live a life that you really want to live.
So say you were talking to two runners who may or may not have their own podcast and they occasionally get injured and then they do yoga for a month and then they get back running again and then that's the end of the mobility. What how do you change the mindset? Because I'm asking from a person who's like, right, I'm going to go do my run, right, time to stretch, or I'm going to go do my strength and conditioning, and all of a sudden bicep curls come out of nowhere. And am I going to get down and do the squat that actually hurts after about 30? No, I'm going to just walk away. And that is the honest truth. And then that's not me. How do you change my mindset or Sean's mindset? And how do you take people? Because a lot of our listeners, and I know this is going on as well, they're time limited. And when you're training for a marathon, you're looking at 3 hours in your day gone on a Sunday on your longest runs. You're looking at an hour and a half here, 50 minutes here. You may have kids. How do you then shift that mindset of marathon goals plus, I need to move my body to be injury free, to move better, to function better? And we know, because science says the more mobile you are, the flexibility you are, the better you perform, the better you run, the better running form you have. How do you make people like me do mobility?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, because we can dive a little bit deeper on running specific things in a few minutes. But the biggest thing is education, because again, I'll go back to me being lost for 4 years and just asking myself the wrong questions. And not naively, I was doing what I thought I had to do. So basically what it is we have to educate people and understand what mobility is. Because I'm pretty confident yourself and your listeners believe that mobility is all about range of motion. It's about improving your quote unquote flexibility. And that's one element of mobility. But let's define what mobility is. Mobility equals your ability to move. That's it. So how do you improve how you move? Well, quite simply, you look after your health. You make sure you're strong. You make sure that you're cardiovascularly fit. You make sure that you look after your lifestyle, your nutrition, your hydration, your sleep. You make sure you look after your stress management, that you have good systems in place so you're organized. You can deal with the responsibilities of life. So all of these things are going to have an impact on your ability to move. And all anyone ever thinks about is range of motion. So let's just use a runner as the example, because it's a really good example. A marathon runner does so much training volume. So they run, as you mentioned there, whatever, depending where you are in terms of the marathon schedule, which are running 3, 4, 5 times a week. And you're doing an awful lot of mileage. That's a huge amount of volume. So we train an awful lot of runners. So the first thing we have to do is go, well, number one, as a runner, are you doing any kind of strength training? And a lot of them aren't. Because number one, I don't have time. Well, what does strength do? It gives you more strength so you can go and run. Running requires to some degree strength endurance. So if you have more strength, you have more to endure. So if you don't make time for strength, you have literally less to endure. Now, again, a running specific program doesn't have to be, well, actually isn't, a bodybuilding program. It's not you being in the gym bench pressing and squatting, because that's literally a bodybuilding program. It's a specific program that could be done at home. It could be done twice a week. It could be done 4 times a week. It could be done small snippets, 10 minutes every single day. It's built for the individual based off their goals, what they want to achieve. But again, I'm not doing that to improve a runner's range of motion. I'm doing that to improve their ability to move. So maybe they need more strength. Maybe they need more coordination. Maybe they do need more range of motion. But the question becomes, what do you need? And most people are focused, as I was, on just range of motion. And they forget about the other elements that are so important for the physicality. I'm training runners, but I just mean this from any perspective. So our thing is human first, runner second. Human first, GAF footballer second. Human first, golfer second. So the fundamentals that a human should do. What should they do? Should be able to walk, run, twist, turn, bend, squat, jump. Like if you can do those things well, and we can literally train your body to do those things better, running a marathon becomes easier, playing golf becomes easier, hopping on the pitch becomes easier, playing with your kids become easier. So again, all I'm doing for both of you here, anyone listening who's never heard this before, and I'm confident you haven't heard this before, it's just education. There's nothing wrong with your body. You have tried things that are giving you short-term relief and potentially improving your range of motion, but they don't do what you think they do, and you potentially are working on something that you don't need to work on. Again, I hope that made sense.
Looking to recover faster,
Yep.
train harder,
Yep.
and perform better?
And then what?
Perform Nutrition is one of Ireland's leading sports nutrition brands with a number of great tasting protein powders, a range of vitamins, as well as other supplements such as creatine. All products are made in a GMP facility in the west of Ireland, and they have a range of batch tested and informed sports certified products. Perform is trusted by a number of Olympians, High Rocks champions such as Sean Noble, he was in the podcast.
Yeah, right, he was.
Also CrossFit Games athletes such as Emma McQuaid and many more. Perform's goal is to offer the highest quality, best tasting nutrition products for competitive prices, and now you can get an extra 25% off all products with the code AGR on their website, performnutrition.com.
25%? I'm typing it in now. And don't forget, we are supporting Irish companies. You are supporting this podcast by listening to this advert. So support Irish, get behind your podcast and get behind your local businesses. And until then, let's get back to the podcast.
How long? It's one thing to talk about, and everything you're saying absolutely makes sense. But that penny drop moment, when someone finally comes into you, for example, you were 3-4 years, and I know you just went to the zoo one day, and that's when you figured it out. But let's take Aaron, who's in the podcast, a couple of weeks ago. Now, obviously, he was trying different things, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it was almost like not a last resort, but just kind of like, this doesn't work, I need to do something. He came into you. And even when he came into you, you were like, I'm not going to fix you day one. This is going to be a process. And that process took 9 months. To sit someone down and say, hey, 6 to 9 months is what you're going to, I know that's accountability you talk about. Is there a certain type of person needs to walk through that door for you at this stage for that to work? Because the person coming off the street that just wants to get fit and get better or whatever, they're probably not going down the avenue you're going down unless they suffer a lot of pain beforehand and realize, hang on, this other shit I'm doing is actually not working. How long does it take for someone that penny to drop? Do you think for the average person come into you, like, before you have all the time?
Yeah, that's a pretty question. Again, and you're right, like we genuinely don't work with anyone because, again, the first principle of our company is responsibility. So you genuinely have to apply to work from us, and there's a questionnaire you have to fill out, and I'm hopping on a call to go, are you ready? So there's 2 things we look for. Are you coachable, and are you ready for change? Genuinely. Because if you're not coachable, if you are not ready for change, I can't help you. Because I can build a program in the world. If you don't follow it, if you're not ready for it, if you're not willing to put the work in over 6, 12 months, no problem. But this is not, I'm not doing this because you're in pain. I'm doing this to give you the confidence and the ability to do what you claim, you love, and you want to keep doing for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So why wouldn't you do it, is my question. So with Aaron, for example, and anyone, Aaron came in with an ankle issue and was told that he needs surgery, etc. And when anyone comes in who is injured for us, all the injury gives us is information of what's not accepting load, of potentially other areas that have to do more work because, it's an injured area or something that's not accepting load. So we individually assess our clients. And again, I'm looking at them from a foundational standpoint. Can they do certain movements? Can certain areas accept load? And I'll know anyway, based off their injury, that certain areas are not accepting load, and they'll do movements and I'll be, okay, brilliant. So that assessment allows me to build an initial program that we can then follow to get these foundations, increase their capacity to do running, walking, twisting, turning, normal human things well. And over time, like any kind of strength training, once the foundations are built, your body adapts, you increase the intensity. Once the foundation is built from there, the body adapts, we increase the intensity. And eventually, all we do, literally, is build strength training programs for our clients that get you strong, build muscle, and improve your range of motion. And again, it comes down to the individual, what they need after that. So Aaron, even on the podcast, mentioned had to do these like little exercises that were kind of boring and all, but he also mentioned they were really difficult. Like I actually have trained Premier League footballers, right, who are bigger and stronger than I will ever be. And we have a different split squat variations, right? They couldn't hold one of our split squat variations for 45 seconds. Body weight, nothing else. And I could hold it for about 3 minutes. So, and the question becomes why? Because they've never trained in this range of motion. They are essentially weak in this range of motion, or range of motion. What do? They foam roll, they stretch, and they get massages. They're so weak here. The brain, the body is doing the best it can do, but it has to overload a different area because this thing right here doesn't have the strength. And all they've done is never trained this way before. And they train this way, as we know, because you have run and the body adapts by what you're asking it. The SAID principle, specific adaptation to impose demands, which basically means the body gets good at what you do. If you train these areas, the body has to respond. So Aaron wasn't. So when you have an injury, so I'm giving so much information, I hope it's making sense. When you have an injury, It's an insult to your nervous system. So your brain, when you imagine injuring your ankle, your brain has to protect that area. You've literally injured it. And what happens? Normally, it swells and pain occurs. That's a protective mechanism. And what often happens? People don't deal with that. They don't rehab that right, and they don't build back that trust with the nervous system. Now, you might think the ankle is fine after it's gone down, the swelling is, but you haven't taught the brain that this can now accept load. And an injury that you might have had 5 years ago that you don't even think about. You came into me, we get an injury history of where you're at, and you're saying my ankle here, my ankle here, my ankle here, and you're a runner. Straight away, I know you are not accepting load well in your lower body. That foot should be taking at least 20% of load when you run. And if there's an injury there you haven't dealt with, it can't accept that load. But you keep running. And maybe your calf or your hamstring or certain area has to do more work because the brain is trying to protect that ankle. And this is what I mean. It's so complex. I'm not trying to get rid of that issue. I'm just going, what should be doing its job when you run, when you walk, when you twist, when you turn? Does that make sense?
By not dealt with, do you mean that people are waiting for the swelling to go down, they're waiting too long, they're not moving for a long time? And to feedback on that question, it's a quote you have on your Instagram. It's like the narrative in education around back pain are massively outdated. Is that talking about how if someone has back pain, it's like, hey, don't move or don't, keep real rigid doing any sort of exercises and you're not.
That's brilliant. Careful for bringing it up. Yeah, that's so important. So think about this, right? You can think of back pain like the common cold. We're all going to get it. You're going to have it in your lifetime. It's normal to have back pain. But what happens when people have back pain? They go, shit, there's something wrong. I've got to be really careful. I can't now go and do this thing. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to go and get an MRI. That MRI says my spine are degenerative, but that's a normal sign of aging. It's like wrinkles on your face. I'm 37. I have more of them. It doesn't mean that I have pain. And all the data will tell you that I can go and get an MRI. It could literally show that my spine is degenerating and I have no pain. But if you have pain and you go and get an MRI, you go, that's it, fucked. I'm actually degenerating here. I'm broken. But go back to education. I know it's normal. Actually, you're telling me I've got an MRI. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's normal. You're like, holy fuck. Now forget even a movement. Forget even me training the spine to build more strength and more confidence. Me, a professional, quote unquote, who's more educated than you, is telling you, don't worry about it. Fucking hell. I feel better already. I know I'm doing no damage. I know I can bend over. I know if I have a tweak there, it's completely normal. And I'll give you a bit of information of how complex pain is. My little Baba I have two Babas. One Baba is 1 year old. So just over a year ago, she was born. She was 2 weeks old. And if you have children or anyone has children, listen to this, my God, you don't sleep for a long time. So for those 2 weeks, I'd barely slept. I have no history of back pain. I was brushing my teeth one morning after 2 weeks and my whole back spasmed. I was like, Jesus Christ. I had played ball the night before. So I stopped for a second. I couldn't literally move. I stopped and I asked myself, right, what happened last night at ball? Nothing. Okay. What's going on here? Why is my back spasming? Has anything changed here? Oh yeah. Gigi, my little girl, was born. I haven't slept. I am stressed to the nines. So my nervous system is in a real fight or flight state. So it's just freaked out. I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? Well, I'll tell you what I won't do. I'm not going to push too hard at training. I was going to train in the gym. I'll leave that for the next 2 days. What I'm going to do is get some movement in my spine. I'm going to show my nervous system, look, mate, calm down. I'm completely fried here. Get some movement to build back confidence. And you know what I'll do? Look, Danielle, I'm just going to sleep for the next 2 nights just to get a little bit extra sleep because I'm a bit fucking exhausted here. But so even just that alone, but I have the education. Now just think of what would normally happen. Jesus Christ, my back. And they know nothing about sleep. They know nothing about pain. They think there's something wrong with me. And let's go back to the MRI. I'm not saying you go and get an MRI, but you might go like I did with the shoulder pain. Can you fix my back? And your man give you a massage and it's gone for a day. But sure, it's back the next day because I'm exhausted. I think there's something wrong with my back. And then maybe in 2 weeks' time, I go and get an MRI. And it's showing me I've got a degenerative disc. All of a sudden, because of the education and the narrative and the understanding of this pain, you've gone down a rabbit hole that can last you, i.e., like me, 4 years. That leads to depression, a loss of identity. I don't know what I'm going to do professionally, a loss of fucking relationship. Who the fuck am I? This shoulder pain is no longer shoulder pain. this back pain is no longer back pain. And you can just see how complex this is. But then think about this, because we change lives left, right, and center. And most of it is nothing to do with movement. It's all to do with education. Think about the confidence that I have as a 37-year-old man knowing what pain means, knowing how to deal with injury. I'm pretty confident I'll get injured. I push myself constantly. I train 4 times a week. I play ball. I run 2 times a week. I'm as fit as anything, but I'm going to get injured. But again, the narrative and the opportunity and the responsibility that I have through the education that I have to deal with it, with that pain and that injury, is everything. So again, I'm not doing any of this to get you out of pain, like Aaron. I give him the confidence. I give him the tools. I'm giving him the ability to, God love him. If you're listening to this and you said it, he just missed out on the 3-hour marathon. But like, he's an animal. He can go and fucking push himself. And the chap is a young man. He's like 30. He wants to keep doing this for like 30, 40, 50 years. Off you go, man. Build that foundation. Keep training this way and get the education, because you can go and do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Absolutely. Definitely.
There's a lot of women who gave birth that went tired after 2 weeks. Sorry again.
Hopefully my missus does not listen to this, because I see it looking back.
I have a question. At what point, because obviously we trust in physios, we trust in doctors, and it's been surrounded, and those in sport have had physios, we've had doctors, we've had massages and knots, massage guns, foam rollers, everything that goes. At what point in your assessments do you consider, okay, the doctor has said this? Is there a line in the sand for you guys to be like, okay, they're probably right on this one? Does that happen often? Or, and I don't know if I'm wording this question correctly. At what point, I suppose that line in the sand of you to say, okay, we've done all we can. How does that work? How do you know that level with the person you're working with to say, actually, it's probably time for a surgery? And I know I'm moving away from the education.
No, it makes complete sense, because it's a very important question, because we can't help everyone. I mean, you don't help everyone. So the biggest thing is if there's a physical issue. So for example, if you genuinely have a hip that is arthritic, now we can get some movement in there. We can potentially create more space to hip capsule, but that hip is literally arthritic. Like that, we can't change that. And maybe movement is not enough for that. So maybe surgery is that option that you kind of have to do. And that's where the assessment will come in. Like someone like Aaron, I couldn't guarantee Aaron that I could get him to the level that he got to. But 100% what I can guarantee him, he's never looked at his body, his training, or his life like this before. And I was just confident by having assessed Aaron, like, there's an opportunity here, we can do something. But again, in most cases like this, we're not going to work with someone who, like, I'm pretty confident maybe that there's a structural issue. You know what I mean? I'm just not, because I can't change that structural issue. But the whole point of all this is that most injuries aren't structural. So most pain and injury over 3 months is classed as chronic pain. Actually, sorry, that's a lie. It's now changed to persistent pain, which means after 3 months. Now, most of the tissues would have healed after 3 months, but the pain is extremely real. It's a real pain, but not because it's something physically wrong, because of any number of reasons. Think of pain like a fire alarm. A fire alarm goes off. The alarm, i.e. the pain, is extremely real, but there's no fucking fire. So what is it? Well, we know it's the fire. Maybe the batteries need changing. Maybe the window is open. There's any number of reasons why that fire alarm is going off. And again, maybe you haven't slept for fucking days. Maybe you're stressed in mind. Maybe your belief about pain and there's something physically wrong is allowing this protectiveness from your brain to go, I have to protect this area. And there's any number of reasons of why you have it. But again, the education of asking the right questions for the fire alarm and asking the right questions for your pain and your injury, they matter. And again, just look at what we're trying to do here. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to give you opportunity to take responsibility, to try and test stuff, and to improve your health and your performance. And you'll reduce your risk of injury. You'll gain confidence in your ability to move, but you'll gain an understanding that will transform your life, because you now have an ability, as you age, because we see it all the time, 30, 40, and 50, to have a confidence and an ability to do things that you want to do because you know you're adaptable, you know you can do it.
A lot of the reviews you get is, I hate starting a question, not knowing exactly where I'm going with this, but I get that. A lot of reviews you get is someone comes in, they have an issue, they go, Aaron with the ankle, people duck loose, whatever it is. And when you see the reviews on your Instagram page for it, goes into the mindset and mental well-being and all the rest. Was that there from the get-go when you originally started moving 101 and then realized the ethos of what you're doing is now a lot more mental stuff has to come into this and that's what changed into what now is Telos program. Or did you have that from the get? Was that from the start, or was that just as you started training from those last 8 or 9 years?
Yeah, it was from the start. Now, again, obviously the idea being Movement 101 and mobility was, as I said, we're still using that as an avenue to change your life. But these questions we asked and the results that we were getting outside of the physical was always part of it. You know, the difference with Telos now is just that, again, maybe when we started Movement 101, it was more get away from injury. When in reality, it's like, no, like I'm not doing this because of injury. And again, everything that we do now, we were teaching and we were progressing, we were working on. But maybe just again, the marketing of it and the messaging around it was more toward injury and pain. Whereas now, again, so I mentioned my own pain at 6 when I got that identity shift. That's what happened. So at 26, I did zoo. My identity, my paradigm, literally, my belief shifted. And it changed everything. I was able to explore gymnastics. I started investing in myself. I started the trial and testings. I had a belief that I could actually get a result I didn't believe for 4 years. So all we've done now is we've just refined our system and our framework and our coaching process to help people get better. So we train people over the age of 30, 40s and 50s. We train loads of runners and athletes, both professional and amateur, because they love what they do. But all of this stuff matters. Again, the strength, your lifestyle. We have a nutritionist as part of our team. Again, your mindset in a sense of, so my role in Telos is to expand our client's vision of what they believe is possible. And physically, that's really important, but then you have to get them organized. You have to get clear of their identity. Who are they? What are their needs? What drives them as men, as women? Again, if you're a father and you're an entrepreneur, there's a stress management element. So all these things literally matter from a performance and adaptation perspective. And if they're not looked at, we're not getting the results. And the reason that we get the mental health benefits of this is because this work is deep. Like if you're asking yourself these questions, you're genuinely going to change your mind. And that's what we have to do, because people come in with certain beliefs, as I'm mentioning here. They certain level of education and understanding, and they've just never asked themselves these questions. And all we've done is create a space. Again, I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here as a guru. I'm just here to go, look, have you ever asked these questions of your body, of your mind, of your life, of your health? Because you can. And if you do, you have to progress. It's impossible. You can't but get progression or learning. And if you learn, you have a better option to now progress for the next action step.
I remember there was a couple of years, actually around 11 years ago, there was a place up in Swords. They had a zoo course or a TRX course. And this idiot here did the TRX course. And I've never granted as much to do right now. Listen to you talking about it.
Well, do you know what? Do you know what's really interesting then? Because this is the funny thing. It's not zoo. So remember, zoo is a system. Pilates is a system. Yoga is a system. Any system you want to name is a system. And I've done hundreds of courses over the last, 10 years, 15 years. It's the principles of the system. So all systems will work to some degree, but not all system will work for everybody. But the principles of the system, of load management, of the said principle, of again, tempo, they matter right across the board. So something like yoga and Pilates work really well for two main reasons. Because one, people are literally moving at a very slow pace and working into range of motion they never work into. That's it. And then oftentimes, secondly, is that they're just doing movements in ways they've never done before. They're just really difficult movements. You know, you're working your core, you're working your glutes, you're working areas, as opposed to what most people do in the gym, which is bodybuilding, or trying to lift as much load as possible. Like most people come to us and we assess them. And sometimes you let them build them like a unique program. It's just like less volume. And we go, sleep a bit more and start eating a bit more protein. And they're like, fuck me, I feel amazing here. And I was like, yeah, cool. Like you don't have to have it, quote unquote, mobility or Pilates or yoga, and nothing wrong with any of those things. But these are all systems. So the question becomes, what's your goal? What do you want to achieve? And then you build a program for the individual based off their goal. And that will look different, again, for the individual and based off their goal.
It's mad because, again, we have bought into it without knowing you, without before we interviewed Aaron, that movement was definitely medicine for us. And Sean has said it on a few times for me. I've gone through injuries where eventually we just kind of, so I remember we did a yoga follow along in the sitting room in our old house in Maynooth, and I couldn't even bend down and touch my knees, never mind my toes. And I got so angry and the mindset wasn't there. And I think that was probably the first time I was going to kill Sean. The second time was during the marathon in 2017. But it was something that eventually, looking back on it with hindsight, that just persistence and moving and trying, but taking it a hell of a lot slower, started to work. Are there individuals then you just cannot convince about? Because I was willing to change. I'm always willing to put my body or try something new and follow advice, or, try yoga, try something different just to get, obviously we understand the longevity. The first indication I got was hearing that Ryan Giggs was doing yoga, and that's why he stayed playing until he was nearly 40. And I was like, that's it. Yoga's it. That's what we're doing. But is there anyone that, obviously you screen for who's the untrainable, who's the uncoachable. How do you deal with those who are just like, no, I'm just injured. No, that's it. Like, how do you change that mindset? That's the bit I just can't.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, but genuinely, some people you can't change. I really mean that. I'm not saying that like we to some people that we would work with again and potentially aren't ready, but I believe that we can kind of help make that change, etc. So it's not necessarily you have to be 100% this way. You know what I mean? But it's just like you do have to work with a certain person because this is difficult. Like I said, it requires a level of responsibility. It requires a level of reflection and honesty that a lot of people don't like. And get out of it though. And this is the joys of, again, what you do and the people that are listening to this podcast. These are people who have goals. These are people who want to get better. So when you're talking directly to these people, most people we talk to are interested in this. And then to some degree, this is the importance of this podcast, the importance of creating content, just to help people. I have my own podcast, and genuinely the idea is listen to this stuff and listen to it for 6 months. People literally have consumed our content for 4 years, and then they work with us. So it might take them 4 years to be ready to change. And I honestly don't mind, because again, this is not just a 6-week transformation. This is not something that, like, we don't complete health and fitness. But that's not what you do. The idea is that you want to get better at health and fitness. Like a marriage or a business, you want to get better. You want to survive this. It's not something that you complete. So what we try to do with Movement 101 and now with Telos, it's educate people who want to learn. It's not just count a few reps. It's not just tell you what to do. The biggest thing Rob always said to me, my business partner, he used to be a trainer in flight fit, whatever, 12, 15 years ago. And he said, what really annoyed him was that he'd come down to a class and people would have their arms folded, waiting for him to tell them what to do. And what would the best people do? They'd be warming up. They'd be doing the stretches. They're taking the responsibility. And we love working with clients who want to learn. Like, we literally have a community of 70 people, and they're all animals. And I learn from them. And we all have a desire. I'm 37. I want to keep getting better. I want to keep learning, because I understand it changed my life, 14, 15 years ago. And it can change anyone's life, but it requires a level of understanding that I can learn. I should take this education and this responsibility, because it will transfer to so many avenues of my life.
Do you do a daily mobility strength training routine type thing when you see that kind of thing pop up on Instagram and stuff like that? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's grand. I personally don't do a daily mobility routine anymore. Some of my clients do, because again, like, less is more, and then little and often is good for them. I have a confidence. So again, I'm not saying you should do this, by the way. So if you're a runner or you're training, don't do this. But I often don't warm up. I'll just go into a session. I'll go for a run straight away, because my nervous system has that ability. Now, I'm not going to go and double body weight my squat straight away. I'm not going to go and run a fucking mile as fast as I can. I'm going to gradually build up to that. But the idea being, like, you don't need to do a mobility thing in order to move well. But it works well for so many people. But this is the idea. People always think of movement as the gym. But movement is movement. So I'm getting down with my kid and I'm moving all weird and wonderful ways. I'm playing football, moving left, right and centre. I'm going for a walk. I'm in the gym doing weird movements. I make up a lot of my own exercises. The gym is a human invention. We've just made it up. And there's fundamental principles that matter. Again, progressive overload, tempo, all these things matter. But how you do it can be whatever. It doesn't have to be a spin class. It doesn't have to be burning calories. It doesn't have to be lifting as much load as possible. The question becomes, what do you want your body to do? And is your training fit for purpose? That can be done at home, body weight, with weights, in the gym, any which way you want it.
You make up your own movements.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Let's get back to this.
The amount of exercises so go back to it. Like, so for example, like, just say you're looking at an exercise, like, what does the body do? What does the joint do? What does something do? And then the idea is like, okay, I want this to accept more load. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get into a certain position. I'm going to mess around with the tempo, because if the slower I go, the more that has to load. I'm going to mess around again with certain parameters, my breath, like loads of different things, the intention. I can start driving my arm in more to contract certain muscles. I can put my focus towards my bicep just to get a little bit more intention and a bit more contraction. Again, like someone invented, I don't fucking know it, Romanian deadlift. Someone invented like all these exercises, and anyone can invent anything. And again, this is what I mean. When you begin to understand this, you go, fucking hell, I actually don't have to just do this thing. I don't have to just go in and keep doing the same movements over and over again. I don't have to just keep, like, again, I'm about 76 kg. I'm extremely strong. I can lift like heavy weights. And I have lads who are, again, 20 kg heavier than me, and I can get them to do 5 push-ups and they'll be gassing. 5 push-ups and they're stronger than me because I'll just change the position. I'll change the intent. I'll change the tempo. I'll just make that exercise extremely difficult. But why am I doing that? I'm not saying that body weight is better, but if I can do that well, I can go and lift external load. And what's the aim here? My aim at 37 is to keep going to 47, 57. I want to get better at the skill of training, not just lift for the sake of lifting. And you'll see yourself, if you're in the gym or you're listening to this now and you see people can't do an exercise quick enough. They can't get it over and done with. And it's like, wait a second, what are we doing here? Do we not want to get better at this exercise? Do we not want to get better at this skill of training? Because this is what you're doing to get better long term.
Do you have goals then in the gym of specific? I've seen some of your stuff where you're like, I can't even describe it on the podcast. Your back's against the wall, somehow upside down, grabbing your hands, and then your head's going one way, your legs. And Eric, I'm making this up off the top of my head because I can't remember exactly where he was. But like your arms are going well back behind your head, and you're somehow concocted in every which way. Are you on those bars going, what if I did this? Can I hold on? Or do you have like some sort of, for yourself, just a specific plan to build towards, like, I don't know. I actually don't know.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. And look, for me now at 37 with a family and a business and whatever, I'm strength training 4 times a week. My biggest thing is that I'm physically getting stronger, that I'm feeling good, I can go and play ball. I have no real specific goals right now in terms of like, fucking dropping body fat or going after this marathon or whatever like that. But the biggest thing is that I'm ready to do whatever. So am I getting stronger? Am I physically pushing myself? Am I getting out of breath once, twice a week or whatever? So, but yeah, just like you're saying there, if you hop on my Instagram, Brian_Telos, I think is what it's called now. You'll see all weird movements, but like anything, I've just started those movements. I progress them over time and the body adapts and then they get more extreme or they look a little bit more impressive, but they all started from very low level, simple looking exercises. And the question for me, I want to be quite mobile. I want to be able to put my arm back here. I want to be able to squat down. I just want to have the freedom to play with the kids and do what I do. And I just really enjoy it. Like, I get bored just bench pressing constantly. I still bench press, but I just don't want to keep doing that and adding more load. So I just like to try and test different things. But my strength training program, honestly, it's very normal with a hint of my own creativity, if that kind of makes sense.
Absolutely. I saw on your Instagram as well, your relationship with alcohol. You
Yes.
talked before about mental health and stuff like that. Did that have any bearing on you going a year? You went 365 days, am I right, without drinking. Did that have anything to do with mental health? And you touched on depression before, or was that, for example, we have a lot of runners and they get to the stage of to get better and to be up at 7 or 8 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday morning, I need to make sure I was in bed at 9 o'clock the night before, and the only thing keeping me out late at night was having a couple of pints at the bar. What made you go 365 days on it, and why did it take so long? Because you talked about 6 months before you saw any benefits, and people may have just done Sober October there last month before. Like,
Was that
why
the thing?
so long? What's that?
Was that the thing?
Sober October is a thing. Is that?
Sober October is a thing in America, I think. I think November is more time over here, isn't it?
Dry January, lad.
Yeah, dry January, yeah, whenever, yeah, fucking hell.
So no, dry January is a second chance at it when you fail Sober October.
You're watching too much American telly, Sean. I've told you to turn that up. That's why you're not running well. You're staying up late watching Sober October shows, and my God, Sean, that's terrible. Go on, finish your question.
I forgot the exact question of that one.
No, in terms of my relationship with alcohol, I suppose, and this is the joys again of what we do. So number one, a big thing has been my business partner. My business partner, who had been a big drinker of like in his 20s now, he's 10 years older than me, he's 47 now, and in his early 30s, has been on this kind of alcohol-free journey for the last 7-8 years, and he's alcohol-free now completely for the last 2.5-3 years, I think now. So like my relationship with alcohol was just one that I just fucking got pissed and had to crack and really enjoy myself. And I did with no intention. So it's just what I've always done. I was a young lad. I was single in my 20s, did that. And then as I had kids and have a relationship with my missus and all, I would just get pissed. I wasn't a big drinker, but I get pissed 5 or 6 times a year at weddings and whatever. But it would really impact me in the sense of 3 or 4 days. I'd just be fucking really depressed. I'd be fucking really down. And I wouldn't even think much of it. I just be like, yeah, this is what I do. But I didn't even really like alcohol. And then, yeah, definitely. Like, I got busier at work. I had kids. I'm like, I'm actually being a fucking terrible father here. So the influence from Rob and our clients, because loads of our clients in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they're just changing their relationship with alcohol. I think it's natural as you age to start to question these things. So I did it for 1 year because Gigi, my second born, was going to be born in like 6 months' time. And so I would often go 4 or 5 months without alcohol. So that wasn't a big deal. So it actually took me 8 months to feel the benefit. So I went off it and I was like, Jesus, I'm not really getting any benefit here. But I realized after 8 months, I was like, oh, fuck, I actually haven't been sick. And you know what, actually? I've been so consistent in all avenues of my life. And I realized I just haven't been hungover. Like, that's all it was. If I'm getting pissed, say, 6 times a year, that's at least 3 or 4 days. Just call it 4 days. 4 by 6 is at least 24 days of the year. That might not seem like a big deal, but actually every 3 months or 4 months, it stops me. And that really impacts then the following week. So it's actually a lot greater than I fucking realized. So that was a big thing. But actually I got to the end of the year and I've drank now since. So I've drank this year probably about 3 times, but I've no intention of getting pissed. I used to get belugas drunk, used to black out and like love it and have the crack and all. But now it's like, Jesus, I don't want to. Just my relationship with alcohol has changed. It's allowed me to look at myself differently. I'm embarrassed by some of my actions because I was just so pissed drunk when I was younger. But it's not something I value because of who I am and what I want. And again, I'll go back to the idea of the work we do with clients. If you want to make a change in your life and you're struggling to make a change, you've got to shift your identity. Like, you got to get clear of your values. So again, what really, who are you basically? You know, what do you really want to live for and strive for? What are your human needs? What drives you? Genuinely, what drives you as a human? And then like your beliefs of, again, maybe I can't do this thing, or again, like, what would I think with the lads and what's around here and stuff? And I think I mentioned on the podcast, like, I was at a wedding, I didn't drink, and I was really nervous talking to people. I don't get nervous talking to people. But all of a sudden I'm like, I normally have a drink and I'm fucking, Jesus, so paranoid. And normally what I would do is go, let's get a pint. And maybe I'll just have a pint and it'll be all right. But I had to sit with that. I had to get through that experience. In an hour or two, I was normal. But that was good. There was something in me there that was like, fucking no, clearly you're trying to suppress something. Or maybe you just used alcohol with no intention. And now it's like, no, sit with this. And you realize like, okay, no, Jesus, this just doesn't serve me. Maybe I do use alcohol to fucking cover up my fucking stress or my emotions or whatever, and it's just not really serving me. So that's a long-winded way of saying that. I just use it as an avenue to develop, I suppose.
I think it also comes with the culture that you don't want to have to talk about why you're not drinking. Why aren't you having a drink? Like even here in Dublin, like we have one night off a week, so we go for a social. But like that, with the marathon training that started for us, and I'm like, right, we have to knock this on the head, or we can't go for 3 beers. So I'll have diet 7-Ups or whatever it is. And like, none of us drive out here, and everyone's like, oh, wait, I'm driving. And they're all like, what? The confusion in the broken English, and it's like the United Nations, they're all looking at me like, no, he's definitely nuts. It's just harder to get away with home. But I suppose a lot more people are kind of joining arms in terms of, well, I'm not drinking either. And it does add, because we've been at parties, me and Sean, when we were training for a couple of things sober, and there reaches a point where you're like, I am not gaining anything from this conversation. The conversation's not even making sense anymore.
Well, do you know what? Because I go down with the lads now the odd time, and not often, because again, just the environment, I just don't want to be there. It's not really, it's just not something you want to be unless you're getting kind of pissed drunk. But like, it's madness for me, right? I'll be there at 11 o'clock, and all of a sudden, the whole energy in the room just fucking shifts. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And you look around and you go, oh, fuck, everyone's pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like you said, it's just talking shy. And you're like, that's my time to leave. Because again, I'm tired anyway. I've been there for the last 3 or 4 hours. And you realize when you leave then, the WhatsApp group next day, most lads don't remember. They don't remember what the fuck happened after that. So you don't really miss anything. Certainly nothing that like you shouldn't be fucking there for. Only kind of bad things normally fucking happen. But again, I kind of go back to the environment to get a big thing for me as well, and why we do what we do in Telos. When you're surrounded by people making these changes, it's much easier to make these changes. As you said there, Eric, like when you're in the pub and you're like, I have to kind of defend myself or have to make an excuse of why. But honestly, there's people in our, because Rob is a big advocate. He does trainings and a testimony around alcohol and how to make that change in your identity and all. there's lads in our group, our client of ours, been with us for years, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I've been getting alcohol for the last year, and no one even knew, and they just mentioned it, and I was like, fucking fair play to you, and you just realize, fucking hell, like I can do it. This lad's doing it, and it's just like, again, I love the fact that I'm 37 and I can change. I fucking love that. Like, I honestly, it's difficult. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but the fact that I'm like, I'm not gonna be fucking held back here. There's an energy of I can change. There's a curiosity. There's a creativity, like a child, like going like, fuck me. I don't have to do what I've always done. I'm not going to let my age or my beliefs or my habits just fucking tell me what I have to do. And again, there's power, there's responsibility in that I think is life changing.
For someone listening to this podcast, the penny has finally dropped. They have those little niggles and injuries and they're just not getting there. And they're like, you know what? You're talking a lot of sense there where I don't. Like, I love me, I drink here and there, but there's a point now where I don't want to be out past half nine. I joke with people. I actually don't joke. I'm serious. Most Friday, Saturday nights I'm in bed at like 10, half 10 at night is probably my latest. And it's not because it just is what it is, the way things are going on. And I'm very happy with that. But maybe someone's like, you know what, maybe I'm not doing a lot of running actually, so I don't know why I'm in bed that early. But anyway, if people that has dropped.
But even that for a second, Sean, if it could, because I think it's a really important point. Again, nothing against alcohol, right? But just think about this now, because we deal with people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And if you just keep having those beers every Friday night and like 6 cans, or it's a few bottles of wine in the even time twice a week or whatever, and you have goals of, again, a marathon or something that you're kind of pushing yourself towards, you have to realize the impact that's having on your recovery. Because people always say, for example, oh, I have a deeper sleep when I have a few beers on me. It's like, you don't. You actually can't get into REM sleep. So you're literally not recovering as well as any surprise that potentially you're getting injured because you're literally doing so much mileage. So it's just more stress on the body. And again, I'm not against alcohol, but you just have to understand that does have an impact on your ability to perform. And you don't have to change it, but no mobility exercise, quote unquote, is going to get rid of that lack of recovery.
I know we've had a lot of people in the podcast complain about how Garmins aren't active, but my sister had a kid and was over in London over the weekend and I had a few drinks, whatever. And the next day I woke up, I was like, you're now strained. You got no sleep. I was like, I was in bed for 7-8 hours. I had more sleep I had all week. I was like, no, you're strained, no recovery, your sleep level's low, whatever. But let's say the penny has dropped with someone and they want to get in touch with you and get a program through you guys. We'll have the links in the show notes. Is it more of a in-person type thing, online thing? Is it a group culture type thing? How does it work?
Yeah, so essentially we're an online company, but there is an in-person element. We have a studio in Swords that's only available to our individual clients. So what I'd say is really follow us. Brian _Telos and Rob _Telos, just to get a feel for what we do, you know, because again, we're not here like say work with us straight away. You'll just see as you consume their content, just give you a bit of education and an understanding. And I think just a little bit of awareness around certain things that a lot of people don't know. And if you're interested, drop me a message. I'll happily answer any questions that you have. And if you're interested, you can hop on a call and see if you can work together. We do have group platforms as well that we open in cohorts. The next cohort is the end of January. But the individual one is through application only if you want to work with us. And the biggest thing with this podcast, genuinely, if you're listening, is you don't have to fucking work with us. Just understand the power that you have. And particularly as you age, and particularly if you want to keep physically improving, you can do it. And again, I've done it from a belief I couldn't. I've helped literally thousands of people do it who believe they couldn't do it. And it's life-changing because it's so much deeper than just the movement or the physicality.
It's absolutely amazing. And we can't thank you enough for the education, for giving us, again, front row seats to a different perspective. And it is absolutely fascinating and stuff we've half dipped into without knowing over the years, myself and Sean. Sean apparently has dipped into Sober October now as well. So, but we don't want to take much more of your time as it is very valuable. Thanks so much. Again, it will be in the show notes for everyone who is interested in getting a different perspective on and an education on injuries and moving their bodies as we move into the endurance athletes as we get a little bit older. But thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful having you on the podcast. And that's it from me and Sean this week on the Any Given Run Day podcast. Until next time, take care.